Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Glad to be with you today to talk about this case, the murder of Suzanne Morphew, 49 years old. Prosecutors believe she was killed on May 9th, 2020. She was, I guess, reported missing on May 10th. And this guy was prosecuted for her death, 55-year-old husband Barry Morphew, but charges were dropped. And then 4 years later, as we all know, the cause of Suzanne Morphew's death was ruled a homicide. So that is the very, very quick recap of what's going on. Today, though, what I want to talk to you guys about is the ongoing, as in started yesterday, hearings and court proceedings, not court proceedings, I guess it's ethics proceedings happening against the prosecutor in this case. And before we get into what's been happening this week, let me just bring you up to speed. I have a couple of articles that will just kind of bring us up to speed on what the allegations are against this woman. Let me bring her up right here. Her name is Linda Stanley. She is the prosecutor in this case. So we're going to come back to this one here in a second. We're going to start here, okay? This is an article that was written in the Denver Post back in April of last year, so a little bit over a year ago. And I just want to read a few paragraphs, okay? A defense attorney on Tuesday accused the prosecutors who brought a first-degree murder charge against Barry Morphew of misrepresenting evidence, withholding exculpatory evidence from the defense, and committing numerous ethical violations. Guys, withholding exculpatory evidence is a huge no-no in prosecutions. A huge no-no. So this is a major allegation. Okay. Attorney Iris Ayton called for state authorities to discipline or disbar 11th Judicial District Attorney Linda Stanley and 6 other prosecutors involved in the case in an 86-page request for investigation filed with the Office of Attorney Regulation Counsel last month and made public on Tuesday. This is over a year ago, April of 2023, okay? Stanley later dropped all charges against Morphew, because she had to. She did not return requests for comment. The Office of Attorney Regulation Counsel, or OARC, is the state office responsible for investigating professional misconduct by attorneys. Ayton's complaint is one of several recently lodged against Stanley that currently are under investigation by the office. Quote, "This is not a series of oopsies or mistakes. There were too many not to be intentional, willful, and or a knowing pattern of discovery and ethical violations," Ayton wrote. "These prosecutors still believe they have done nothing wrong. They will continue to violate their ethical obligations, harm other people, until and unless the OARC disciplines them up to and including disbarment." And disbarment would be a huge thing. Basically, you lose your right to practice law. It can be regained, of course, but it's a major deal. Ayton on Tuesday also called for more tools to punish prosecutorial misconduct and said Colorado law should be changed so that prosecutors can be held personally liable or sued for such actions. And I would love it. What they're talking about there is high immunity, and it is absolute in most places. District attorneys and prosecutors and several other members of our public service sector, let's call it, they enjoy absolute high immunity, and I hate that. I think it's a terrible doctrine and policy that we have here in the States. But he's hoping that things can be changed so that prosecutors can be held liable or sued for such actions. Okay, it keeps going, it keeps happening because nothing happens to prosecutors who commit misconduct, she said, adding that judicial sanctions and professional discipline often amount to a slap on the wrist. Okay, so that was the complaint. It actually got more than that. Let's see. Yeah, there are a few more things here. In the April 2023 article, Ayton wrote in the complaint that Morphew might never have been arrested but for prosecutors' misconduct, particularly around one piece of evidence, DNA from an unknown male that was found in Suzanne Morphew's car. Ayton alleges prosecutors knew about the unidentified DNA in October 2020, which would be exculpatory, right? Exculpatory meaning it would exclude the defendant, and knew the DNA was at least a partial match to 3 unsolved SA crimes in other parts of the country. Despite this, the prosecutors did not tell defense attorneys about the DNA evidence and did not disclose to the judge who signed Morphew's arrest warrant, Ayton alleges. She claims that was a violation of Colorado's discovery laws. That would likely be a violation of federal Brady laws, which require district attorneys to turn over any exculpatory evidence to defense attorneys prior to trial. This highly exculpatory information was concealed, not included in the affidavit for the arrest warrant, withheld from the judge who signed the arrest warrant, and not mentioned by the prosecution in the preliminary hearings, Ayton wrote in her complaint, or Ayton, however you say her name. Okay? All right. So there was more, though. Here is an article by the same author, Shelley Bradbury, in the Denver Post from October 31st, 2023. And it says, the elected district attorney in Colorado's 11th Judicial District launched a baseless investigation of a judge after becoming frustrated by his unfavorable rulings in the high-profile Barry Morphew murder case, state authorities allege in a disciplinary complaint filed Monday. So the allegation here is that because the district attorney did not like Miss Stanley, because she did not like the rulings that were coming down against her in these court proceedings, she launches an investigation into the judge. Which is messed up, guys. That's messed up. Okay. And these are allegations, of course. District Attorney Linda Stanley pursued a domestic DV, let's say, investigation into then District Judge Ramsey Lama after he issued a series of rulings against prosecutors during the case against Morphew, who was charged at the time with killing his then missing wife, Suzanne Morphew, in a prosecution that later was dropped. Okay, Stanley ordered an investigator with her office to interview the judge's ex-wife about whether the judge had ever been abusive during their marriage and whether that rumored history might be influencing his rulings in the Morphew case, according to a 20-page formal disciplinary complaint filed against Stanley on Monday by the state's Office of Attorney Regulation Council, the entity responsible for investigating professional misconduct by Colorado attorneys. The agency opened an investigation into Stanley earlier this year. So, I mean, just to kind of put that into, I guess, our easily understandable terms, is she's like, okay, this case, Barry Morphew, we're alleging that he killed his wife and that he was violent towards her. And the judge may be violent towards his wife, so maybe that is the reason we're not getting things our way during this prosecution. Okay, quote, we couldn't understand Judge Lama's orders that were so egregious against us, and he's normally not like that, Stanley said, according to the complaint. And we were discussing what's going on, and those two came together. And I said, let's see if we can get somebody to interview Lama's ex-wife to see if there was anything going on, or if the suspects that he's trying to get, or if she suspects that he's trying to get back at her, essentially in almost a passive-aggressive way by making this case impossible to prosecute. So she completely admitted to doing it. The judge's ex-wife denied any abuse occurred and denied that Lama ever spoke with her about the Morphew case. Okay, that is pretty... I mean, I'm trying to think if there is any if there's any reason a district attorney would ever be investigating a sitting judge, or is there another entity like investigative agency that would have that oversight? Because there would be oversight of judges, of course, but I don't think the district attorney's office has oversight of judges. So yeah, I think that's really completely weird. And it appears that Ms. Stanley completely admitted to it. All right. Yeah, Jamie is saying over there, by the way, Jamie's one of our intrepid moderators. She's saying, ask Gavin, put GF in the comment. Guys, what I do on most of my streams these days is I put in a little filter so that I can only see like super chats and super stickers, and then things where GF is in the chat. So if you want me to answer a question, or if you want to address anything to me, just put GF in your question, okay? All right. Lawyers with the Office of Attorney Regulation Counsel now allege Stanley's actions violated the state's professional conduct standards for attorneys because she was attempting to unethically influence the case against Morphew. Respondent used her position, quote, this is in the complaint, quote, respondent used her position and office's resources in a manner intended to prevent others, including Judge Lama, from effectively performing their roles in the criminal justice system, the complaint reads. The disciplinary agency also took issue with Stanley's comments to various media outlets, including Morphew's prosecution, and in particular to one true crime podcast. I really should find this 20-page document. I would really love to know which true crime podcast it was. They didn't say YouTube, so I think I'm in the clear. As if I have any any status or sway over college. I'm full of crap. Okay. Where are we at? All right. Stanley also posted numerous inappropriate comments on social media about the prosecution, the complaint alleges. Additionally, authorities allege Stanley failed to properly supervise her office and remedy discovery violations. These would be the Brady violations, right? Anything exculpatory during the Morphew prosecution. In all, the state alleges Stanley violated 7 separate rules of professional conduct for attorneys. The formal complaint, filed with the Colorado Supreme Court's Office of Presiding Disciplinary Judge, simply lays out allegations against Stanley. She will now have the chance to counter the allegations and can choose to settle the disciplinary case against her or pursue an evidentiary hearing, which leads us to now, basically. Stanley could face discipline ranging from public censure to a temporary or permanent revocation of her law license. Okay, so that is the background on where we are so far in this case. Okay, and that leads me to an article that was published yesterday in the Denver Post by the same author, Shelley Bradbury. And actually, you know what, before we get into it, guys, let me just, let's take a break here just for a second. And for those of you who are new, because I don't know if you guys know this, the channel is growing pretty crazy right now. We are at 76,250 subscribers right now, which blows my mind. So for those of you who have been around for a long time, I know that you see this a lot. But for those of you who haven't been around for a while, I just want you to know that you can come to my website, gavinfish.com. This is where I post just a ton of stuff on the cases that I cover, and many of the cases that I deeply care about. If you go onto the cases page, you can see some of the documentation. For example, in the Eric Richins case, that's a good one because I've recently uploaded just a whole bunch of stuff, right? These are the case documents in the Eric Richins case. There's a timeline down here as well. And of course, the videos that I've done on it. So if you ever would like to just do a deep dive into true crime heaven, this is the place to do it. Also, if you ever want to contact me, you can just hit the contact button and you can reach out to me either anonymously or not, however you want to do. Then the last thing I'll say before we get into the next part of the video is this little fishy icon right here. that will take you over to the Fish Tank, which is a growing group. Man, we've got about 1,500 members now of folks who love true crime and love to chat, including myself. So if you're on Facebook and you love true crime, please either just go to my website, gavinfish.com, click the fishy icon, or you can just go to Facebook and search Gavin Fish. You certainly will find me. Okay, so let's go back over to the article. Here we go. All right. So the title of the article, State Lawyer Calls Barry Morphew Prosecution a Debacle as Disciplinary Hearing Starts for the District Attorney. All right. A 2-week disciplinary hearing began Monday for 11th Judicial District Attorney Linda Stanley, the Colorado prosecutor accused of violating professional rules for attorneys when she prosecuted Barry Morphew in the 2020 murder of his wife. By the way, I think that she was probably under tremendous pressure to prosecute this case. And of course, hindsight is 2020. There is no way she could have known this. But it was in 2024 that the manner and cause of death was released, and the drugs that killed Suzanne Morphew were the very drugs used in a tranquilizer gun that Barry Morphew had and admitted to using. Had they waited for that evidence, man, would this be a different story? I think that it would be. State authorities alleged during the proceeding in Denver that Stanley, the sitting elected district attorney for Chaffee, Custer, Fremont, and Park counties, made inappropriate comments to members of the media during the Morphew prosecution, failed to capably lead the district attorney's office, and attempted to retaliate against the judge presiding over the Morphew case. Jonathan Blazewicz, an attorney for the Office of Attorney Regulation Counsel, called the Morphew prosecution a debacle that was left in shambles because of Stanley's mismanagement. Quote, "This case is about a ship with a captain who never manned the bridge," Blazewicz said. Quote, "Instead of navigating the ship and keeping it on course, the captain was engaged in unethical commentary with members of the media. And the ship that crashed was a first-degree murder case." I am curious if I go to the Denver Post here, what media outlet? Let me go back over here so you can guys. Let me just search real quick. Or podcast. Doesn't say easily. All right, so we're not going to be able to see it, which is okay. All right. Okay, where are we? All right. Stanley's attorney, Steve Jensen, countered in court Monday that Stanley wasn't an unethical and poor leader, but rather did the best she could in a judicial district with very limited staffing and resources. It is highly unusual for a disciplinary case against a sitting elected district attorney to proceed to a public hearing. Stanley could lose her license to practice law if presiding disciplinary judge Byron Large and 2 hearing board members sustain the allegations of professional misconduct against her. During the trial-like disciplinary hearing at the Lindsay Flanagan Courthouse, attorneys for the Office of Attorney Regulation Counsel, the agency that disciplines Colorado attorneys for violating professional standards, began presenting witness testimony to support the allegations they levied against Stanley. Stanley is accused of violating 7 rules of conduct, with 5 violations occurring during the Morphew prosecution. He was charged with murder in 2021, a year after his wife, Suzanne Morphew, 49, disappeared from the family's Chaffee County home on May 10, 2020. Stanley dropped all charges against Morphew in 2022. He has maintained his innocence and is not facing any charges in connection with his wife's death. Which boggles the mind, does it not? Investigators in September discovered Suzanne Morphew's body in a shallow grave near Moffett, and a coroner later determined her death to be homicide, finding she died with a cocktail of animal tranquilizers in her body. The investigation into Suzanne's killing is now being handled by the 12th Judicial District Attorney Ann Kelly, since her body was found in that jurisdiction. Well, I think that is good news for the prosecution. Apparently, Mr. Morphew's daughters continue to support him and say that he is innocent in all this. Jensen argued during his opening statement Monday, getting back to the hearing, that Stanley's comments to the media about the Morphew case were innocuous and that an inquiry into the personal life of the judge on the case was not used to retaliate against him. The Morphew prosecution was Stanley's first ever homicide prosecution in her career, Jensen said. Well, holy cow, your first murder prosecution, and it's a big one. I'm sure she felt pressured, man. Quote, she did not neglect her duties, Jensen said. She did not lack due diligence. She provided adequate supervision. There's no basis for those charges. Jensen added that an interview that Stanley gave to a Colorado Springs TV news station, which accounts for 2 of the allegations against her, was supposed to be considered off the record. Stanley believed her comments would not be aired on TV, he said, even though she was wearing a microphone and being recorded. Once the hearing concludes, the evidence will be weighed by a disciplinary panel of 3 Glenwood Springs attorney Sherry, I don't know how to pronounce Sherry's last name, I'm sorry, and Melinda Harper, a member of the public. If the board sustains the allegation, then it will determine the sanction up to disbarment. The 2-week hearing is expected to include testimony from John Suthers, a former Colorado Attorney General and U.S. Attorney for Colorado, former Boulder District Attorney Stan Garnett, multiple prosecutors and investigators who worked on the Morphew case, and former 11th Judicial District Judge Ramsey Lama, who presided over the case. Stanley sat quiet at the defense table Monday, at one point appearing to check emails on her laptop, and at other times writing notes on a yellow legal pad. The first witness called was Attorney Jeff Lindsay, the initial lead prosecutor on the Morphew case, and the current unopposed candidate to replace Stanley as the 11th Judicial District Attorney. Guys, I'm sure you know this already, but district attorney is a job that is, what am I trying to say here? It is a job that pays well. Like, as the district attorney of multiple counties, I don't know what her income is, what her salary is, but being a district attorney is a huge deal. It's like being as successful as a private attorney as far as your income. You're paid well. This is not a position that you want to lose, because the assistant district attorneys don't even come close. The rank and file prosecutors don't even come close to what the district attorney makes. In the county in which I live, our district attorney is the single highest paid, I hate using this term, but public servant in the county. More than the judges, more than the commissioners, more than all 3 of our county commissioners combined. So it is a job that you don't want to lose. And if you're going to lose this job, you also don't want to lose it while losing your license to practice law. So I'm sure Mr. Lindsay is chomping at the bit, or was chomping at the bit, when he was called as a witness against his boss, who is currently probably still his boss. Okay. He said the small office was overwhelmed by the scope and scale of the investigation and could not handle all of the work alone. Stanley was frequently out of the office. She was not quick to respond to emails and was hard to find, Lindsay testified. He left the job after a few months. Okay, so he's not working there anymore. So she is his former boss. resigning because he, quote, physically and mentally could not keep up. I told her I couldn't do it anymore, he said, describing a meeting with Stanley in which she scrolled on her phone as he spoke. She said, "It sounds like you're trying to get off a sinking ship." All right. On cross-examination, Jensen sought to show Stanley properly supported Lindsay and that his workload was not without precedent. Lindsay acknowledged that Stanley at times met weekly to discuss the Morphew case, and that before the preliminary hearing, she arranged for Lindsay to take a week away from his other work to focus on the case. He also agreed that she sought a significant budget increase for the district attorney's office that was denied by the judicial district's county commissioners. Yeah, I don't know how it works in most places, but I think it is probably similar to the way it works here. Okay, in the county in which I live here in Western Pennsylvania, they don't get to determine what they pay the court personnel. That is determined by state statute, but they're the ones that pay the salaries. They're the ones that maintain the courthouse. They're the ones that maintain and staff the jail. All of that stuff is paid for by the county commissioners. And counties, even in high tax rate counties like where I live, they're always running out of money. And so if a district attorney is asking for money and the county commissioners are like, well, you can't squeeze blood out of a rock, whatever that term is, blood out of a turnip, I don't know, whatever that old saying is, then yeah, they will deny it, right? I mean, the district attorney's office probably has the biggest budget in the county. So, I mean, you can't blame them for turning it down if they don't have the funds. Okay. There was never a full-time prosecutor assigned to the Morphew case, Lindsay testified. After Lindsay left the job, a handful of attorneys worked on a part-time contract basis to prosecute the case, testified Chaffee County Sheriff's Office Commander Alex Walker. He previously worked as investigator for the district attorney's office and has filed more than 120 search warrants in the investigation into Suzanne Morphew's death, he testified. He said it was unclear for some time after Lindsay's departure who was in charge of the prosecution, and the part-time attorneys who followed Lindsay struggled to grasp the fundamentals of the sprawling case. Yeah, and if you're working part-time on a case like this, I would imagine it would be tough to catch up. Okay, we did anything and everything we could to get them to get them up to speed, guide them, Walker said. But it was landing on deaf ears. Names weren't remembered. Timelines weren't remembered. Data wasn't remembered. It was like we were repeating the same things. I think I cut off the rest of that article. But you guys get the idea. Ms. Stanley here is in deep, deep trouble, I think. Yeah, let's just bring her over here so we can see her closely. I think she's in deep trouble. Okay, I see that we've got a couple of things that is addressed to me in the comments. So let me just go here. Gavin, do we know the type source of DNA found in the car? Okay, so that's just going off of memory here, because Suzanne Morphew's body was badly decomposed. And the way that they found what drugs were in her system was from tests on her bones. So she was badly decomposed. But if I remember correctly, I think part of it was touch DNA and part of it was hair. I think. You guys might be able to correct me, but yeah. It's Jesme says Stanley was on Profiling Evil with Mike King. All right. Thank you for letting me know. Let's see. AC says, Gavin, also there was another woman found before her, right? Has that woman ever been identified? I don't think they have identified those remains yet. Mooney asks, can the courts appoint a special prosecutor? Mooney, it depends on the state and what the statutes are. It appears that they have fixed the problem here in that because her body was found in a different judicial district, that case can be transferred over to that judicial district. So I think we're going to be okay there, because we definitely don't want Miss Stanley prosecuting, right? And then make update with Jack also lets me know is profiling evil with Mike King. And then Gavin, so do we actually know that she was aware of the DNA evidence at the time of charging Morphew? So that is the allegation that the defense made. So what happens here is in any prosecution, legally speaking, the prosecution does not have to release everything that they have to the defense. They don't have to do that. And it depends on the jurisdiction, I'm sure. But what they must do, what they always, always, always must do, is release exculpatory evidence to the defense. And if there is DNA that is partially matched to somebody else, that is exculpatory for sure. I mean, of course, it's a subjective thing, but I can't imagine any judge would say that's not exculpatory. And had that been that information been given to the judge that signed the arrest warrant, that judge would have thought twice about making the arrest. The arrest maybe still would have happened, but they probably would have had to overcome that with other evidence presented to that judge. But yeah, so what was the question again? Do we know that they were aware? Yes, they were aware of it. And they were aware of the DNA evidence. They were aware that it partially matched to 3 other violent crimes, SA crimes. That, well, according to the allegation of the defense, which is a very good question. Thank you for that question. Let's see. Let me go over to here because I think I saw. Wow, thank you. B. Bloomy sent in a super sticker. Thank you very much. Very, very much for that. I deeply appreciate it. Let's see. I'm going to go over to, let's see if there's anything else that you guys want me. Yeah, no, I think we got it. Here's a good comment. Liesel says, this is why I don't prefer states electing district attorneys. In Alaska, we do not, and it leads to more competent and skilled DAs. So in Alaska, they don't elect district attorneys. That's interesting. That is the first time I've ever heard that. Like, I've always felt like the district attorneys are elected. Let me find real quick. Where are district attorneys not elected? Let's see. So, according to Wikipedia, generally the prosecutor, with the exception of 3 states, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Alaska, as well as DC, they do not elect district attorneys. Huh. That is very interesting. I did not know that. Thanks for that comment, Liesel. And Jackie B says, Liesel, yeah, you get the job if you win a popularity contest, basically. You know what? In my county, I won't say, I would disagree respectfully with Jackie B that our district attorney is popular. I don't think he's popular, but he is pretty effective. His office is effective at winning cases and plea bargaining deals, a system that I hate, but he's good at it. And that's why I think he keeps the job. It's a very well-paid job in a low-income county. All right, guys, I think that is it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you guys joining me. And B Bloomy, thank you very much for that super sticker. You guys know that it is my dream to be able to do this full time. And that's why it's great when I check in and find out that the channel continues to grow. Thank you very much for supporting me. Please don't forget, you can always go to gavinfish.com to get in touch with me and join us over on Facebook in the Fish Tank. We have a good time over there, and we talk about cases that are important, and we also have a few laughs every once in a while. All right. With that, there are a couple things coming down the pike here, guys. We've got documents that have come out against Stephen Stearns in the Madeline Soto case. We've got a huge doc dump from the FBI in the Gabby Petito case. So we have got some stuff to go through together, which we will do in the next couple of days. So if you are not subscribed yet, and this is the kind of content you like, please consider subscribing. With that, I will bid you adieu. Until next time, take care. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.